Stage Event Sustainability Live. It's been a wonderful couple of days here. We've heard so much insight from brilliant speakers. One of the things that has kept on coming up is food and food provision and sustainable sourcing and food waste, and it's come up in almost every panel we've spoken about. So to have a panel dedicated to this topic with 4 real experts to cap us off is fantastic. Really looking forward to this. I just want to give a final thank you to our wonderful stage and show sponsors, Evolution Dome, right behind us. Round of applause. Come on. Ash is back there. He's feeling fresh, so go and grab him afterwards if you're interested in learning more about these wonderful inflatable structures. All come in all shapes and sizes, suitable for all types of events, indoor and out. So brilliant company. Please do chat to them if you would like to. We would encourage you guys to ask questions during this panel. You can do that in 2 ways. You may have the Slido app, otherwise you can just go to slido.com, scan the QR code, that will get you straight into the session. You can ask questions on your phone, very, very simple, they'll appear up here, and the panel will tackle them. You can also put in that code as well. If you prefer to do it the old-fashioned way, stick up your hand. I have a handheld mic. I'll come and get a mic to you if you prefer to do it that way too. That's it. Without further ado, delighted to introduce Jenna Carter, who is going to be moderating this final panel. Jenna.
No? Yes? Okay, we're on. It's the last session of the day. We'll excuse it. So thank you so much for joining us, especially as it is the last session of the day, but hopefully we'll make it a really good one for you guys. So this is the 3rd and final of 3 sessions that Lime Venue Portfolio have pulled together today in conjunction with Event Sustainability Live. And the reason that we wanted to do these sessions is really because we promote ourselves as cheerleaders for better events, and especially everything to do with food in events. So great that we can be here, great that you're obviously spending your time in terms of listening to us. For those of you that don't know Lime Venue Portfolio, we are the largest collection of venues across the UK, and we are owned by parent company Compass Group, so big global caterer. They have some really ambitious plans to be net zero by 2030. So really food is at the heart of everything we do, and obviously that's why we're here to talk about that today. We have been talking, though, about sustainability probably for the last 5 or so years now. It started with our hashtag FORROW. I am marketing, so I have to get a hashtag in. So FORROW, which was the fear of running out, that we introduced about 5 years ago, and that topic still very much is prevalent now. We then introduced a series of Beyond Food reports, which were all about events seen through the prism of food. Then we launched our Meetings for Change product, which was all about making it easier for event buyers to buy more sustainably, to make it easier for them. And most recently, we've launched our Meetings for Change, Meetings of the Future campaign. There's too many futures and meetings. Meetings of the Future campaign, which was all around the food side of things as well. So thank you ever so much for having us, and hopefully you'll understand why we're so passionate about talking about food at events. But without further ado, I want to introduce our panel today, our illustrious panel, who I'm going to try and corral, but with these 3, wish me luck. So let me introduce Mel first of all. So Mel's in the middle here. Mel Newman is from PwC and has been a long-time friend of Lime Venue Portfolio and has really helped to guide a lot of our sustainability practices, and hopefully we've helped to guide some of PwC's too. We also have Caroline from Agiito. So again, another great partner for us, and I'm sure a lot of the people in the audience as well, great partner for you guys. And again, we work really, I suppose, collaboratively with you to make sure that we are seeing and hearing what's happening in the marketplace and adhering to that. And then lastly, we have Joe Austin, who is the Sales Director for Lime Venue Portfolio and also heads up the MIA board for sustainability. So does all the sustainability lead, and I know, Joe, sustainability has been a passion of yours for quite some time now, so thank you ever so much, ladies, for taking part today. So Many of you have probably heard about Scope 3. If you haven't, Scope 3 is all about emissions that is not directly produced from the company or from a business. It's all about the supply chain, and that's what we're here to talk about today. So let's kick off. Joe, can I start with you? So I know you've had a lot of conversations around food and events over the last few years, but how have you seen food procurement change over the last 1 to 2 years?
Well, I think very, very simply, it's changed because it's had to change, because we've had to look at what we do and how we do, and food is a major part of the event world. At LVP, we do research on a regular basis, and we are always inundated with feedback, and the feedback has never been less than 48% of that to do with the food. The other thing is that we've come back from COVID. We've got a raft of new people in our industry who are potentially not as experienced as they were before. We've got this huge sustainability badge everywhere we go, and navigating that is an absolute nightmare. And we can't all be experts, can we? So I think, what have I seen that's different? I've seen in my world that is working for Compass, we got a lot of support in this arena. If we can't buy badly in my organisation, but we absolutely recognise that from an event manager's point of view, it's really hard to choose a partner to work with who, and actually, how do you choose a partner to work with? Because there's so much fudge to go through, using a foodie term, in terms of making choices for partners, making the choices for events, for venues, etc. So there is so much changed. The thing is as well, Scope 3. So Scope 1 is in our gift in many ways. We can make those choices. Scope 2 a little bit harder to navigate. And Scope 3 is the relying on other people. So you have to choose your partner well. You've got to choose who you work with well, from venues, from event management companies. You've got to choose all of those things well, because this is the stuff that we can't actually affect ourselves.
And Caroline, moving on to you, how have you found it from an agency point of view? Has anything changed?
I think from our point of view, we've got almost a sliding scale. So at one end, we have customers now who are putting sustainability in their messes. And actually, if venues are not being sustainable and providing those options, then we're not allowed to put them forward to our customers. But on the other end of the scale, you've got people that understand that, yes, we need to make sure we're traveling sustainability and we can't use single plastics, but actually they don't understand what that means when it comes to food. So we see that as our role, as educating and working with our customers to make sure that they are actually making the right choices to help them align with their goals as well, because that's really important.
And are customers asking you about the procurement, the supply chain? Are they interested? Do they want to know more?
Again, sliding scale. So some of them absolutely 100%. We've seen a lot of our customers who would normally go to Europe for their events, they're actually holding them in the UK now from a sustainable perspective, and then taking that one step further and saying, what else can we do? So that's when our role comes in, to actually start educating them about how far they can take that from a menu perspective.
Okay, great. And Mel, can I throw it over to you, because I know you've been doing a lot of work at PwC. So from a corporate perspective, I suppose, what changes have you seen within the procurement side of things?
I think the big thing for us is, this is something that's massively ingrained in our business and has been kind of. We really started to put it into our annual reports in around 2008. But I think the big shift and the best word is probably traction. There is now traction in our Scope 3. So Scope 3 for us is our biggest focus that we started this year and will continue, because as Joe said, it's what you can't control. We can control our buildings, we can run at 100% renewable energy, but Kia Oval may not be able to. So for us, it's all about our Scope 3, and the traction is finally there. I think the conversations are there. And for us, what we're trying to do is actually, as Caroline said, we are actually trying to help our people not have to make choices. They're going to have enough choices to make on the event, that what we want to do is to support them in the actually the venues that we're providing to them, we've already done all of the pre-work. So we have a preferred supplier program. We have 2 programs because we want to cover all different types of venues. And actually, as part of that process, which generally our contracts run for a couple of years, we have sustainability practices embedded within them. And if those practices or some of what we have within our contracts cannot be met, we are starting to actually not put those venues forward. What we are making sure that we're doing as a business, because we are a responsible business, is that for smaller venues, we have a very large corporate sustainability team, and we actually have somebody that's based with talking to our supply chain to give them support, because they're getting it from all angles, right? They're saying, go with this body, go with this body, go with this. And, you know, I can sit here and tell you ours is EcoVadis, but, you know, from a venue perspective, that's not saying you have to, but that's what we have chosen as a business. So it's kind of the traction's there, the conversation's happening, and we are going to be making some very bold decisions that are starting right at contracting process for us, so that our people don't have to make that choice. We've made it kind of for them.
Yeah, it's making it easier, I suppose, for them, isn't it, as well? And you touched on benchmarking there. I know at PwC you've introduced kind of your own framework. Why did you do that, and could you tell us a bit more about it?
I think we like to have, not control, I shouldn't say, but again, we need to make it easy for our people, you know, and I'm sure a lot of other people here are working in huge organisations, you know, here alone in the UK we're 27,000 people. We need to make easy decisions very quickly, and especially in this market at the moment, we need to make them even quicker. So for us, we need to have frameworks in place that give our people comfort and that help our people make choices. We don't have time to make them, so we are doing all of the pre-work kind of for them, I suppose, in having frameworks, contracts with venues and bringing them on our Scope 3 journey.
Okay. And Caroline, how does that transfer over to you guys from an agency point of view? How do you deal with that framework that an individual company, for example, has set up? There must be so many requests coming through. How do you respond to that?
I think, first of all, and I'm not just saying that because I'm sitting here with you guys, but try and work with a partner who helps you. So actually, if we work with somebody like Lime, it makes it so much easier for us because everything is already done for us. So that is something that, you know, we would always try and partner with you guys. But if we can't, I think it's about asking the questions early. So what we've got to be able to do is perhaps before contracting, because venues can be more flexible when you're contracting. So actually it's about going to those venues and putting it out there early, because that's when they're likely to flex the norm. So that's something that, you know, we would spend an awful lot of time doing.
Yeah, that makes sense. And Jo, from a venue perspective, how do you deal with all these incoming requests, different frameworks, when you've got thousands of customers that you're working with? That must be a challenge.
It's a nightmare, and the bottom line is, at the moment, nobody knows where to turn, and I think this is one of the biggest challenges that we absolutely have, because there isn't actually a very specific framework that says this is the right thing to do. There are about, you know, and nobody's doing a bad job. They're just doing it in slightly different ways, and I think from LVP, you know, at Lime, what we actually set out to do was to take it from our stance. Food is in our gift at LVP. So we took it upon ourselves to be the educators and enablers for our customers, our partners like Agiito, who work with our great customers like PwC. We took it upon ourselves to make it an easy field to navigate through to make the right decision. So we took our Meetings for Change product, and what we actually did was, our Meetings for Change product is actually based on procurement of food. It is 5 steps, really easy to understand. It is about red tractor food, it is about plant forward, it is about waste. It was about all the things in just 5 steps that made it easy for a customer to see that was the right thing to do. But this all hinges on picking your partners well. And, you know, I'm, with my MIA hat on, I am passionate about accreditation in this space. There is some amazing meeting space in this, in our country, you know, but actually, how do we get those messages about making the right choices to Mel and her 27,000 employees who might need to book a meeting space, to Caroline and her Agiito team about actually how to choose the right venue when some of their other corporate clients are on the phone. And I think that's the nightmare to navigate through. So we just took it from the bit that we could influence and said, if you choose a meeting, an LVP venue, you choose a Meetings for Change package, you are going some way to a sustainable DDR. You're going some way to doing better than you probably did last year. And net zero is all about doing better. It's all about making the right decisions in the right way to get us to that point, that net zero point. So for every bit of bad we do, we've just got to do something better. So if we do less bad, we've got to do less good in the long run. And ultimately, it was breaking down into very simple steps that.
I think that's a really nice, succinct way to do it. Whatever you do that's a bit bad, do a bit of good. So Caroline, can I ask you, I know you said it was like a sliding scale in terms of where people are on the sustainable journey, but from clients that are interested, that are wanting to know more, what are they asking for from a sustainable menu? Have you seen any of that?
Yeah, I think a lot of it forms part of the wellness that everybody's talking about as well now, because it's all part of the same journey, isn't it? So for example, for lunch, people are no longer wanting to sit and have a 3-course lunch, but actually we know we can't have buffets. We need to build time in for people to have wellness. We need to have people being able to network when they're on their lunch break. So for us, it's about perhaps that single serve, so bowl food, or making sure that we're able to offer our delegates something that they can get quite quickly, but then enable them to continue with networking or go and have some time to themselves, so they get the break from the conference schedule. But that lends itself really well to the art of sustainability as well. For dinner, we're seeing a lot of requests for personalisation. So wherever you are in the world, actually, our customers are wanting to see that shown in the menu. So if we're in Spain, is it a Spanish menu? But also if we're in the UK, is the location famous for producing something, and can we put that into the menu? So it's that customization, which again helps with the food miles. And then finally, I think for me, the thing here is that we need to have inclusive menus. So there's more and more requirement for vegetarian or plant-based menus. We can't just give them substandard options anymore. It's not just a dietary requirement. It actually needs to be the same level as the meat option, because increasingly people are wanting this. And if we're going to push this forward and make it a viable option, then we can't give them a nut roast or a stuffed pepper anymore as a vegetarian or vegan option. It needs to be on par, if not superior, to the meat option that we're giving them.
I think that's very well put. Or the mushroom risotto is always another good one. So Mel, from a client point of view, obviously you're organising events all of the time, but you're having to deal with delegates, your internal customers, I suppose, on a day-to-day basis. Are they on board? You said there was traction, but are they on board? Are they asking for more sustainable menus?
Yes. And I think, like you said, it's about now keeping it simple. So we have a working group that we have from across the firm, so led by a corporate sustainability team. So, for instance, I'll be represented from an external perspective. We have our internal rooms team on there. We have our events team on there. And one of the things that we're talking about is this kind of keeping it simple, but also what we started introducing is subtle changes. So some changes that you wouldn't necessarily notice straight away, but where we've actually really thought them through. So one of the big things that we're doing at the moment is flipping menus. So what I mean by that is even the order of your dishes. So you tend to find on a menu, if you're doing like a 3-course dinner, you will always see the meat first. Always. What we're trying to now do is flip it. The meat is at the bottom, so that you kind of read something and you think, oh my God, that actually sounds super delicious. I might actually go for that. And then you sort of go 2 or 3, oh, there was a chicken or there was a beef. And we are actively encouraging. I'm very fortunate in our business. We have really strong stakeholder groups, so we can start to say no beef, and start to kind of. But we're trying to say at the moment it's the subtle changes. And the conversation we were having earlier is that actually we can make all the changes in the world We can say we're never having beef, we're never having this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. But if our delegates do not understand why they are sat in a particular meeting room, in a particular venue, eating particular food in a particular way, to Caroline's point, if we've decided to do bowl food or a bento box, there has been a conscious decision. And what we have to ensure is that our delegates know that, because we are doing some brilliant things, but our delegates haven't got a clue why.
No, I think that's been something that's come out of a lot of sessions today, is that there's so much great stuff going on out there, but people just don't know about it. So communication is definitely
We
key.
have to start doing, at our events where we are either doing as part of the opening session. So one of the things we're implementing within our L&D community is that at the start of every meeting, there will be an explanation as to why they are in the meeting room that they're in, and what to also expect. Because I think for Joe's venue perspective, and anyone else that's a venue, I'm ex-venues, and I feel really sorry for venues a lot of the time, because it is that fear of missing out. If someone didn't get the cheese because it ran out, that's all you're going to hear on the feedback form.
It's true, and especially when Joe said I think 40% of the feedback is about food. So Joe, how are you handling that from a venue perspective? So when customers are running out of food and they wanted the beef instead of the chicken, how do you manage that from a venue point of view?
So one of the biggest challenges that we actually have in terms of event feeding is the buffet, is the quick turnaround at lunchtime, etc. And in reality, one of the biggest challenges in the event industry around food is food waste. So if you have 500 delegates, you can't have 500 portions of absolutely everything. So we've got a bit of a mantra going on that we discuss this, and absolutely, I'm in sales. When my customer says jump, I say how high. I want to give customers what they want, and I think that's massively important in all this. So, the education and enablement around the bits that we are experts on can really, really help in this space. But we thank people when there's an empty bowl of the chicken. We thank people. We don't say, sorry, we've run out of chicken. We say, thank you for helping us have no food waste today. We turn that on its head, because that's massively important. You will always get well fed. There will always be good food. But we can't have, at the end of a buffet, the last 100 people on a 500 buffet cannot have the same choice as the first 100. But we've got to tell them that before we get there. We've got to explain that. Our objective of our event today is to actually be better than we were last year. It's to actually reduce our carbon footprint from our event. And in order to do that, we've asked you to come on public transport. We've asked you lots of things. You've had all your invitations and everything's been done digitally. We've asked you to not actually buy single plastics. We've asked you to bring your own water bottle to refill. There's lots of things you'll be asking delegates to do, and part of the pre-event comms has got to include this information. It's got to say, at the end of the day today, our objective is to have no waste from our event today. And if you set that out, then your delegates actually understand that. And like I say, thank you for helping us have no waste today. It's massively powerful. And the other thing is that leads your next bit to actually measuring how much better you were at your event this time compared to previously. And until we start measuring what we're doing, and so we start absolutely understanding the impact that some of these actions make, we'll never really believe it.
Yeah. Okay. It sounds like there's onus on each individual area, so from agency to corporate through to venue, to actually make sure that the customer is aware, the end user, I suppose, the delegate is aware. It's not just on one individual section, it's on everybody. Would that sound fair? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, no, I think so, and Joe touched on it earlier, that data piece. I think if venues would make it easy for us to actually say, if you have the Argentinian beef, it's this this is the carbon, and actually if you have a vegan menu, this is the if you are able to give those stats and put it in front of a customer, the education piece, it helps them make those choices.
It helps you to visualise it as well,
Yeah.
I suppose.
Yeah.
Actually, there's a question that's come in for you, Caroline, and for Mel around measurements. So on the screen here, are you tracking any avoidance data where planners or clients are making better choices to measure the impact? Who wants to answer that?
So we are working with the various different suppliers who are able to help us with that. We don't have that facility in-house. We have a great sustainability team, and I think that's something that where we would like to get to. But actually, we outsource that and work with providers who help us from the whole range of the event, from travel and transport and the venues we choose and the menus, but also, yes, to help us track where the customer is making those better choices. So it's for us as an agency, that's something that we outsource at the moment.
Okay, and Mel?
And this is the conversation we have a lot, is around tracking. And Joe, we're smiling because I've had this conversation with Joe many times as well. And my boss, Sam, actually is on the MIA board with Joe. And this is her biggest conversation. So if you ever meet Sam, this is what she would talk about. And I think the challenge still remains. It's a very overwhelming area, and there are so many ways you can do this, and that we are still in discussions with with our agency partner, with our venue partners, because it's a minefield and everybody's doing it differently.
Yeah.
Every single supplier that we speak to will say, oh, it's great because we're doing this with these people, and we're like, but we're not. Because for us, it is about science-based targets, and, that's where we're working with EcoVadis, but then equally, Lime venues may not be. So this is the minefield data. To Joe's point, I think the big thing for me is about just doing better. Know you've done better than what you did yesterday. Did we do better on an event today than we did yesterday?
Yeah.
And yes, the tracking will come, but we've got to focus on the comms, the changes, the quick wins, because the traction's there, but we've still got a long way to go.
Yeah.
It is a journey. Everybody's talking about 2030. That's our target. That's always been our target, and we have to get there, but it's going to take time, and we have got time. Yes, we're in 2024 next year, which I can't believe, but we've got time.
Yeah.
I think the other thing as well is to consider, so it is a legal requirement now to have calories on menus. It is a legal requirement now to have allergens labelled within an inch of the life. If you take food out to customers, it is a legal requirement to label them because of Natasha's law. And how far behind now, is this going to be, that it's actually going to be? And until something is made like that, it actually doesn't have that impact. And I am expecting that this will be, food is a major part of the problem of what's going on in the world. And I think, it won't be very long before this gets to a certain level and we'll actually be talking about this, because food labelling is huge, isn't it? The supermarkets are doing these things differently now. Everybody is on the journey. But actually, this needs to be legalised. Maybe it needs to be far more formalised for real traction.
And Mel kind of touched on the anxiety side of things, Joe. I know you quite often, I've heard you in the past talk around the eco-anxiety, the green anxiety. Can you tell me a little bit more about that and kind of how we look to reduce it at Lime Venue Portfolio?
Yeah, I mean, we just realised when we were talking to customers like Mel and like Caroline and her team, we realised that nobody wants to do a bad job. Everybody wants to do the right thing. But actually, we just didn't know how to. And we didn't know where to point people to the right thing. And that's when we kind of said, we at LVP, we're very specific. We choose our partners well in everything we do. We work with like-minded people. And so we said, look, we can take this on and we can make this an easier journey. So eco-anxiety is absolutely huge. And sometimes people don't know everybody wants to do better, they just don't know how to. So with my MIA hat on, we did lots of work at the MIA for members around choosing assistance and training. You know, I'm lucky enough to work for a massive organisation that takes this incredibly seriously, but lots of MIA members are not those large organisations. They need to have somewhere to go for that advice and that support. So I think that was where, you know, we're very fortunate in LVP to be able to do that with scale and volume, you know, over 80 venues, you know, do 50, you know, I mean, how many delegate lunches on an annual basis and all of those things. So, you know, we can actually do that by scale. But actually, eco-anxiety is for anybody in this space, and actually knowing where to turn for support is hugely important.
And maybe that's where the accreditation conversation comes back into place, and if you've got that backup, that you know that something is correct, that you can prove it, you've got the metrics behind it, and perhaps that will then help to put people more at ease. Do you guys have any opinions, any thoughts around accreditations? Caroline, I can see you nodding your head.
I think from my perspective, it's really difficult because we've touched on this already, there are so many different accreditations out there. If you put yourself in the shoes of an event planner who can be talking to up to 30 different venues at a time, sometimes more, actually trying to remember all of those different accreditations and understand what each of them mean and say, you know, how many of them are we able to track, are we able to work with? It's incredibly difficult. So I would love to see an industry or somebody take the lead, like you guys, to actually say, this is the way we're going to move forward. This is an industry recognised accreditation, because otherwise it is a minefield out there to try and understand what each one means and what each one is representing.
And Mel?
I just completely agree with Caroline. No, I personally have found it overwhelming. You know, and obviously people are looking at me to have the answers and go, what are we going to do? And I'm like, I don't know, because I'm talking to these people today and these people tomorrow. And I think that's where we're working with trusted partners, that you can have, the conversation's got to start, and you've got to have open conversations. And what we're trying to, you know, we obviously don't want to impart, we're one corporate organisation. I'm sure other people have got their own ideas and thoughts, but I totally agree with Caroline. It's too overwhelming. It's too overwhelming out there at the minute, and I think everyone's got to start working together.
And have you seen that sustainability has become part of the standard procurement process now? Is it in everything that you're seeing, everything that you're doing, every partners that you're working with? Is that something that you're asking of your partners? Yeah?
It is. Yeah, it is. And as I say, that it was, for us, the journey's always been going for a number of years. But for us, it is completely there now. And so this is how, you know, to what extent, and like I said at the beginning, I don't know what bold statements we're going to make yet, but we are definitely having conversations about how far we are going to push this and what kind of bold statements we're going to make. So at the moment, it's just very much around our contracting and aligning with the right venue partners and you know, event management partners, production partners. But I think very soon we will be making some quite bold choices on behalf of our people. But again, it's like we've said a number of times, it's going to be how we communicate those bold decisions and having the data to support those bold decisions in everything we do. I say figures, data, that's got to be the basis of all decisions. So once we get that sorted, I think we will see, some very strong decisions.
I mean, you're so right, Mel, because what our industry needs is, it needs event planners and corporate buyers and the agents to actually start saying, we will not use you unless you have this. And it needs to be 10 points, 5 points, or whatever. Because the minute that we are told that as venues, we will have our plan to make sure we can achieve that. And it is, and we overcomplicate at every turn what that might look like. But until the people who pay the money to have events with us actually say, we cannot and will not work with a partner that doesn't have this 10-point thing covered off, right? At that point, and it might be 20 points, but 10, let's keep it simple, right? 10 points. Yeah, let's start somewhere that's easy to navigate. And then all of a sudden the world will be a different place, because I can go to all of my managing directors and say, this is what the industry are telling me you need to do. So you need to invest in this, or we need to make a stand on that, or we need to further develop this. And that would be a great starting point. That would be a great starting point for all of us.
Make it easier for everybody. Make it easier for everybody. Right, we have got a question that's come in around an alternative to a buffet. So can you please elaborate on the best options that you recommend instead of a buffet to reduce waste? Joe?
So, street food is a new trend in events. Bowl food's been around for a wee while now. So there are lots and lots of ways. I mean, COVID taught us an awful lot about this, didn't it? We couldn't have buffets. Do you remember? I mean, we've all forgotten about that, haven't we? But we all started an event industry back, didn't we, after COVID, and actually you weren't allowed a buffet. So we all of a sudden became really creative at lunches, didn't we, with bento boxes and tuck boxes and what have you. And then when everything's allowed to happen, we just kind of dropped all that. But I have to tell you, I'll tell you where it was most evident. It was most evident at breakfast, okay? So if you're in a hotel and you have breakfast, everybody goes and piles their plate up with breakfast, don't they? Right? 3 rashers of bacon, 3 eggs, 5 sausages, 2 hash browns, 6 slices of toast, and a coffee. And actually, they eat the 1 rasher of bacon, the 1 sausage, the 1 egg, the 1 slice of toast, and everything else went to waste. In COVID, we had to serve breakfast. Nightmare for an operator, right? Nightmare. But actually, our food GPs and our waste were hugely impacted positively in that period. So we've got to have learned from things like that. And customers were so pleased to be back meeting. They were happy to have a bento box at lunchtime. They were happy to have that served at the time that they wanted, with the portion control, the choice, the healthy options, absolutely everything. From a food labelling point of view, from a calorie counting point of view, from a service point of view, from a GP point of view, and a customer service point of view, it ticked all the boxes. And yet we've gone back to buffets. Yeah, so we kind of, we've done ourselves a disservice here, haven't we, really? And so there are plenty of options to buffet, but this actually needs to be, again, a lot of organisations we work with, our stakeholders and the stakeholder and the bill payer is madly passionate in this arena. And the 250 people that rock up tomorrow morning have no idea that the decision's been made because of all these great things. And that will continue to be the challenge until we sort that out.
Thank you. So I think to kind of sum up today before we go to any questions, is just to say probably there's 2 key things that's come out of it for me. First one being around communication. How do we educate our delegates better that we are being more sustainable, that we've made sustainable choices on their behalf? And then the biggest one, probably the main point of what's come out of the session, is around picking your partner well. I think if you get that right, then it makes your job a lot easier. It's also better for the planet in the long run. So those are probably the 2 main things. Would you say that probably sums it up? Fab. Okay. And data. Data is king. Yeah. Okay. So does anybody have any questions before we finish? Oh, there's one more just popped up on the screen. So not a question, just a comment to say yes, please, for a framework for proper, robust accreditation for the sector. Well, you just got 3 yeses there, so I think that everyone's in agreement. One more question, I can't see at the bottom, bear with me. Where does cost fit into the conversation, passing cost on to the clients? Caroline, do you want to take that one?
Again, I feel like it's the same sort of thing. If you're working with the right suppliers, the change shouldn't be any more expensive. If anything, they can be more cost effective, the menus. So certainly on a par. So from my perspective, giving people the knowledge and educating them that there should be no cost implication at all from changing from one menu to another.
Okay, great. Well, hopefully that's answered everybody's questions today. Thank you ever so much for coming. I'd like to give the panel a round of applause and say thank you ever so much. Thank you.